Your mind is the most powerful weapon you'll ever own. Not your phone, not your computer, not your bank account. When life gets dark, when depression sinks its teeth in, and you're stumbling through hard times, the only thing you can truly rely on is what's inside your head. You can sit in a therapist's office, you can pour your heart out to a friend, and maybe they'll help. But when the lights go out and it's just you live inside your mind every single second of every single day. And here's the truth. If you can't control your mind, it will control you. That's why you need to give it direction. Tell it where you want to go. Tell it how you're going to get there. Keep the steering wheel in your hands, because if you hand it over, it's game over. Your mind is like a wild horse. It needs to be broken, trained, and directed. Left to its own devices, it will wander into the darkest corners, replaying your failures, magnifying your fears, convincing you that you're not enough. But here's what most people don't understand. Your mind isn't your enemy. It's just untrained. It's like having the most powerful engine in the world sitting in your garage, but you don't know how to drive. The potential is there. The power is there. You just need to learn how to harness it. Back when I started this journey, I didn't have a master plan or some genius blueprint for success. I had one tool: hard work. That's all I knew. Every voice around me kept saying, just work harder. And so I did. But here's the problem. When you don't understand something, working harder isn't enough unless you know how to attack it. You can swing a hammer all day, but if you're hitting the wrong nail, you're just wasting energy. I learned this the hard way. I spent years grinding, sweating, pushing myself to the limit, but I was doing it blindly. I was like a boxer throwing punches in the dark. Lots of movement, lots of energy, but no strategy, no precision, no understanding of what I was actually fighting against. For me, learning meant repetition. When I didn't get it, I read it again. If I still didn't get it, I wrote it down. Then I wrote it again and again. I kept doing it until my brain gave in. I realized something. Your mind adapts when you give it no choice. Just like swimming when you've never swum before. You'll sink at first, again and again. But if you keep kicking to the surface, eventually your mind says, all right, fine. We're figuring this out because this fool isn't stopping. But here's the thing about repetition. It's not just about doing the same thing over and over. It's about doing it with intention. Every time you repeat something, you're carving a deeper groove in your brain. You're creating neural pathways. You're literally rewiring yourself. Most people give up after the third or fourth try because they don't see immediate results. They don't understand that their brain is actually working, building, adapting, even when they can't see it. That's the key. You corner your brain until it adapts. You don't give it a back door to escape through. You close off every exit, every excuse, every easy way out. When your mind realizes there's no escape route, it stops looking for one and starts looking for solutions instead. Think about it. When you're drowning, you don't think about how tired you are. You don't think about how hard it is to swim. You just swim. Survival instinct kicks in, and your body does things you didn't know it could do. That's the power of removing options. That's the power of making success your only choice. People always ask me, how did you last 18 months in dive school when the program is only 6 months long? The answer is simple. I made suffering my normal. My day wasn't a day. It was a mission. Just like people get up, put on a suit and tie, and go to work, I got up every morning and went to work in pain. My feet were tied together. My shins were on fire with splints. My body was breaking down. My bank account was empty. Stress was through the roof. But this became my baseline. And when you accept pain as your new normal, your mind becomes unbreakable. Most people run from pain. They avoid it, medicate it, distract themselves from it. But pain is not your enemy. Pain is information. Pain is your body and mind telling you that something is being pushed to its limit, that growth is happening, that change is occurring. When you learn to welcome pain, to dance with it instead of fighting it, everything changes. I remember lying in my bunk at night, every muscle screaming, every joint aching, wondering if I had anything left for tomorrow. But then I'd remember why I was there. I'd remember that soft, 297-pound version of myself who was going nowhere, doing nothing, being nothing, and I'd make a choice, stay in pain and grow, or avoid pain and stay the same. I had people asking me, "How did you run with a broken leg?" I tell them, my mind had already decided I could. I didn't give myself the option to quit. There was no escape hatch. Outside that environment, there was nothing for me. And when you've got nowhere else to go, you fight. But it wasn't just about physical pain. The mental warfare was even more brutal. Every day, my mind would whisper lies to me. "You don't belong here. You're not strong enough. You're not smart enough. Everyone can see you're a fraud." Those voices were relentless. They never took a break. They were there when I woke up. They were there during training. They were there when I tried to sleep. The breakthrough came when I realized I didn't have to believe those voices. I didn't have to argue with them or try to silence them. I just had to keep moving forward despite them. Your mind will try to protect you by convincing you to quit before you get hurt. But here's the secret. Getting hurt is part of getting stronger. Getting hurt is how you learn what you're really made of. When I started, I was 297 pounds. The most terrifying thought in my life was the idea that I'd stay that way forever. I was working pest control for $1,000 a month, killing cockroaches and rats, thinking I was giving 100%. I'd come home exhausted, telling myself I'd worked hard that day. But I was lying to myself. I was comfortable with being uncomfortable in a small way, but I wasn't willing to be truly uncomfortable in a big way. Years later, when I looked back at myself at 106 pounds, I realized something. What I thought was my limit back then wasn't even close. Most people will never find their real limit, not because they don't have it, but because they're not willing to dig for it. They're satisfied with the surface level. They're content with scratching when they should be excavating. Your real strength isn't in your muscles. It's buried deep inside you, waiting to be discovered. But you have to be willing to dig past the fear, past the doubt, past the voice that says, "This is impossible." You have to dig until your fingers bleed, until your back aches, until everyone around you thinks you've lost your mind. And digging isn't glamorous. Digging means going so far down into yourself that you hit something no one else can touch. You have to reach the mineral-rich soil deep in your soul, the place you can't burn away. That's where your why lives, not in anger, not in shallow motivation, but in the deepest part of who you are. Your why has to be stronger than your excuses. It has to be more powerful than your fear. It has to be so compelling that when everything else fails, when your body wants to quit, when your mind is screaming at you to stop, your why picks you up and carries you forward. But finding your why isn't a one-time event. It's not something you discover and then check off your list. Your why evolves, deepens, becomes more refined as you grow. What starts as wanting to lose weight might become wanting to inspire others. What starts as wanting to prove people wrong might become wanting to prove to yourself that you're capable of more than you ever imagined. You can't find that by sitting still. You find it by chasing what you want to become every single day until you become obsessed with it. Obsession gets a bad rap, but let me tell you something. Every great achievement in history came from someone who was obsessed. Obsessed with their craft, obsessed with their mission, obsessed with becoming the person they knew they could be. The difference between obsession and mere interest is that interest is convenient. You pursue your interests when you feel like it, when you have time, when conditions are perfect. But obsession doesn't care about convenience. Obsession doesn't wait for perfect conditions. Obsession gets up at 4 a.m. when everyone else is sleeping. Obsession works when it's raining, when it's cold, when it's inconvenient. For me, it was serving my country. It was becoming the kind of man I could respect when I looked in the mirror. That mirror, it doesn't lie. It reflects exactly who you are. And if you can't look yourself in the eye and feel pride, you've got work to do. The mirror shows you your truth. Not the story you tell others, not the image you try to project, but who you really are when nobody's watching. That mirror reflection became my daily accountability partner. Every morning, I'd look at myself and ask, are you becoming the person you said you'd become? Are you keeping the promises you made to yourself? Are you living up to your own standards? And if the answer was no, I knew exactly what I had to do. Most people want peace before they've fought the war, but it doesn't work that way. True peace only comes after you've gone through the fire, after the suffering, the struggle, the weight of responsibility. And responsibility isn't comfortable. Responsibility means doing the right thing for yourself and for the people who depend on you, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Responsibility means showing up when you don't feel like it. It means keeping your word when it's costly. It means choosing the harder path because you know it leads to who you want to become. Most people avoid responsibility because they think it's a burden. But responsibility is actually freedom. The freedom that comes from knowing you can handle whatever life throws at you. When you embrace responsibility, you stop being a victim of circumstances and start being the architect of your destiny. You stop waiting for someone else to save you and start saving yourself. You stop making excuses and start making progress. It's a brutal truth, but if you can live with it, you can live with anything. When you've accepted full responsibility for your life, when you've stopped blaming others for your situation, when you've stopped waiting for perfect conditions, that's when you become unstoppable. And here's the thing. Once you've been through the storm, peace hits differently. You're not fragile anymore. You know you can take a hit and keep moving. You've seen yourself bleed and keep fighting. And your mind, that once tried to control you, now works for you. It becomes your greatest ally. The peace that comes after the storm isn't the peace of avoidance. It's the peace of strength. It's knowing that you've tested yourself and didn't break. It's knowing that whatever comes next, you have the tools to handle it. It's the quiet confidence that comes from having been through hell and choosing to keep walking. When you give yourself no way out, when you strip away every excuse and every safety net, your mind will eventually say, "All right, we'll adapt, we'll win." Your mind is incredibly resourceful, but it needs to know that resourcefulness is required. As long as it thinks there's an easy way out, it won't tap into its full potential. But when survival is on the line, when success is the only option, your mind becomes a problem-solving machine. It finds ways around obstacles you thought were impossible to overcome. It discovers strength you didn't know you had. It creates solutions that didn't exist before you needed them. And when that happens, that's when you finally see what you're truly capable of. That's when you realize that everything you thought was impossible was just untested. That's when you understand that your only real limits are the ones you accept. Your mind is waiting for you to take control. It's waiting for you to give it direction, purpose, and the unwavering commitment to never quit. The question isn't whether you have what it takes. You do. The question is whether you're willing to dig deep enough to find it.